Hey, it's Alec Baldwin. This past season on my podcast, Here's the Thing, I spoke with more actors, musicians, policymakers, and so many other fascinating people, like writer and actor Dan Aykroyd.
I love writing more than anything. You're left alone. You do 3 hours in the morning, you write 3 hours in the afternoon, go pick up a kid from school and write at night. And after 9 hours, you come out with 7 pages, and then you're moving on.
And actor and comedian Jack McBrayer.
The most important aspect is the collaboration with people that I like, I trust, are talented. That has been the most amazing gift to me about this crazy business that we've chosen. Meeting these people who have such diverse talents, and you're able to create something together.
Listen to Here's the Thing on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Are you hungry? Colleen Witt here, and Eating While Broke is back for season 4 every Thursday on the Black Effect Podcast Network. This season, we've got a legendary lineup serving up broke dishes and even better stories. On the menu, we have Tony Baker, Nick Cannon, Melissa Ford, October London, and Carrie Harper Howie turning Big Macs into big moves. Catch Eating While Broke every Thursday on the Black Effect Podcast Network, iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your favorite shows. Come hungry for season 4.
Hi, I'm Bob Pittman, Chairman and CEO of iHeartMedia. I'm excited to introduce a brand new season of my podcast, Math and Magic, Stories from the Frontiers of Marketing. I'm having conversations with some folks across a wide range of industries to hear how they reached the top of their fields and the lessons they learned along the way that everyone can use. I'll be joined by innovative leaders like Chairman and CEO of Elf Beauty, Tarang Amin, legendary singer-songwriter and philanthropist Jewel.
Being a rock star is very fun, but helping people is way more fun.
And Damian Maldonado, CEO of American Financing.
I figured out the formula. I just have to work hard, then that's magic.
Join me as we uncover innovations in data and analytics, the math, and the ever-important creative spark, the magic. Listen to Math and Magic on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast.
Still the Place with Laura Layton,
Courtney Thorne-Smith,
and Daphne Zuniga, an iHeartRadio podcast.
Hello, friends. How you guys?
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. As you can see, I have a different background behind me with a lot of accolades, I might say. This is my my half-brother's mom and her husband's basement and office and baby room. So they kind of said I could have this for my podcast needs. There's a baby bassinet and all kinds of other stuff over there, which I'm not sure. It's all pink and soft.
Yep. Pink and soft.
She's a girl. She's adorable. And yeah.
Who's a girl, Daphne? Do you want to tell us who's a girl?
My niece.
Yay.
Yeah.
Well, because you
Her
didn't
name's-
say.
Her name's Zoe.
Daphne's an auntie. That's
I'm
so
an auntie.
exciting.
Auntie Zoe. Yeah. It's and so a lot of family and friends are coming by. We're up in San Francisco where they live, where I was born.
Oh,
Very
that's so
nice.
sweet.
A few years ago.
Yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
last episode, I think Chuck was there and he's like, we would be writing and going, oh, that's a Melrose moment.
This
Yeah.
episode should be called Poor Alison.
Bye bye,
Yeah.
Billy / poor Alison.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So bye bye, Billy. We'll do a brief recap here. We open up on Marina Del Rey, which is our marina in LA, and it's on some sailboats and beautiful water. And the camera pans up this very fancy for 1992, very modern high rise. And then we cut inside and we have, we see these close-ups of coffee being poured, toast being buttered, flour putting in a vase, the paper being folded and put it on a tray. So we don't know who it is, but then we pull out and hands are walking this tray and it's Amanda who walks into or opens her bedroom door and there is a naked Billy in her bed. So they had a lovely evening and she's just like adding tulips to coffee and toast and she's in heaven. And so they're getting frisky again and she gets a call and it's her dad and her dad said he's coming to town. So she goes, oh good, this is a good chance for my dad to meet Billy, my new boyfriend. But Billy says, well, no, I have a plan to see a play with Alison. And she's like, oh, come on, nuzzles his neck, talks her out of it, talks him out of to his previous commitment. Alison. she is mugged when she's walking to her car at night after the play. And little aside behind the scenes, the head thug guy who grabbed you and pushes you against the fence, that's Lee Ehrenberg, who I went to UCLA with, and who's like the cute, sweetest guy you'll ever meet.
The sweetest man. Yeah.
Do you remember?
I do.
Yeah.
I remember. Yes, he's the sweetest man.
Lee Ehrenberg, he's done a lot of work, and he usually plays those kind of characters because he has that kind of like menacing look, but he's like a big teddy bear. Anyway, so that's a very traumatic situation for Alison, and she continues to have flashbacks and fear throughout the rest of the episode. And it's Keith who is kind of there for her, and Billy's not so much there for her. So you see with Keith in the picture and with this need that she has, we see Billy kind of like, well, I guess he has her. So he moves towards Amanda. And then Alison sees that, well, he's at Amanda's all the time, says to Keith, why don't you move into my place? I don't want to be alone. So she's very fragile now after this experience. And she says, Billy's never there. So why don't you move into the apartment? And he says, well, of course, he says, I'd love to. Simultaneously, we have Joe and Jake are trying to navigate. He has the motorcycle shop now, and she's trying to figure out how she can be a partner, not step on his toes. And we'll see that kind of comes to a nice compromise at the end. But she also tries to help her friend who's been traumatized by this robbery, and does it her way and takes her to a shooting range. And Alison will have none of it, is freaked out by this guns, and Joe's kind of really getting into it, but Allison's like, I'll be waiting in the car, I can't do this gun thing. So that didn't work. And then Joe tells Jake later that she has a gun, and he's like, you need to get rid of it. She will. And then we also have Rhonda and Terrence wants to decorate this big mansion that he bought, and it's like, oh, you have to go meet the decorator that I hired. And she's like, okay. And she goes over to his new mansion, and it's none other than her old roommate, Carrie, aka Ray Don Chon.
Yeah, great to see her again. That was fun.
Yeah, OCD crazy roommate, and they have a whole jealousy triangle that they'll have to work out. So this really is about navigating the different pairings. And of course, at the end, everybody, we have the saddest scene in cinematic history when Billy finds out that Keith has moved in. So he figures, well, my time is here.
Second only to Casablanca. But seriously,
second only.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It was close though. It was close.
I don't know. If we're in the Oscars, I don't know. I think Billy and Alison scene may have won.
Melrose got nominated for very few Oscars. I think we do need to point that out.
There's a couple of
Shockingly few
reasons
Oscars.
for that. We can get into that in a minute.
Well, now that we're streaming on Paramount Plus, we probably would be eligible. Anyway, but yeah, that's a sad scene. So get your Kleenex and box of wine, people, because you're gonna need it.
Bye,
And
Billy.
we'll have a moment of bye, Billy. And so that's where we end the episode. And like we said, let's jump in.
What a great summary, Daphne.
Nice and brief, but
really well done.
So everyone should watch it. I just want to remind our followers.
I think the main point that we'd all like to agree on is there was way too much making out with Billy and Amanda. I think the main point we want to make, enough of that. Am I right? Enough of that right now.
I will say there was less of it than the last episode, which is much more of a sex.
Well, I noticed some neck nuzzling. Yes.
Yeah.
Is it really? Is slightly less pain for me your only marker of success? Slightly less pain for me?
I'm just trying to break it to you gently that yes, there was some making out, but to be honest, it was less than last episode. I'm still very sad for Alison because you know
too much
that
for
I'm rooting. I'm rooting for Alison, and I am such a spectator in these episodes. Like when you say, Daphne, that we hope people are watching these old shows. It is so fun for me to go back. I'm watching a show I never saw, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm truly an audience member in this first season, and so I'm getting invested in these characters. And of course, I'm rooting for my friends Courtney and Daphne, but I'm really rooting for Alison. During this stretch of time where the subtitle
it's funny
is.
Also watching that scene, Court, and I was thinking, wow, I'm really feeling like I feel so sad, and I was like, oh, they're dating. They're using emotional connection and probably imagining saying goodbye. Like Billy, you guys are both so good. Andrew was really good too. I really felt it.
What a
Yeah.
weird reality. I was watching thinking, what a weird reality. We probably drove to work together. Then he goes and makes out with Heather, and I go and make out with Billy Moses. And then we get back in the car, drive home, hopefully make out with each other. Maybe we're just tired at that point. Maybe we're like, I've had about enough. I'm done. But what a weird reality that is.
You can truly see in this episode that Alison, the character, is annoyed by Keith and not really very warm and fuzzy. She's like talking herself in. This is what I'm watching. And I'm the audience member, so I'm like, this is just what I observe. I see Alison not very interested in Keith, and she's settling, and she's just going, okay. And then somehow he manages to like come be the hero when she's in a dark and scary time in her life, and he happens to be there, and she's just grateful for that presence. But it's not really, she doesn't really like him. This is what I see. And yet when she's with Billy, it's just warm and fuzzy and perfect, and you know, like there's chemistry and you like each other, and both, and it's so sad to see the relationship that they're not choosing to have be the one that's so obviously better on screen.
Yeah. So the first scene with Keith and Alison, when I'm so far over to the side of the car, I'm almost hanging out. I look
about to jump out.
Was I car sick? Like I literally look sick. And he
And
goes,
you
having
rolled
you
your
so
eyes?
close. And I'm like, but am I really so close? Like I was a good 4 feet away in a car.
And you
The notes I made on that scene were that he was harassing you for like, and mocking you and teasing you and being sarcastic, like, oh, we're just buddies, we're just pals, you know, and really, and I thought that was so annoying, like mocking you and being sarcastic because you want to go slowly. And you're like, do you not remember? I don't trust you. Because like he never told you he was married before.
But remember, she
And he's like,
delivered.
okay, well, what do you need? The papers? I'm divorced. I just thought he was.
Well, I think Alison was too,
Self-serving.
because all those lines that she delivered in that scene were that same level of annoyance. Like,
Yeah.
he was like, literally.
It did feel like it was going like this.
Yeah.
And then this trauma happens to Allison. And so then he's there to save her.
Doesn't
He's
it-
there for her over and over.
Doesn't it make you sort of wonder, like, did Keith somehow orchestrate all this to set up?
That's what I'm wondering.
I mean, there's no
what I was
spoilers
wondering.
here because I don't know where this is going. This is just an
Because
audience
he
member
does loan
speculating.
her his car.
Loans
Because she
the
doesn't have a
car.
car. She says to Billy, it's funny, like she says to Billy, it's not that I really care. My car's in the shop. Like, I don't care that you're not going to play with me. My car's in
Right.
the shop. So rude.
I'm fine going alone. So he knows she's going alone. She's in the borrowed car and, you know, going to the theater district and all this stuff. And like, just conveniently, he's there when she's going down into the scary laundry room too.
Yeah.
Like when
I thought the same
the
thing,
lights burned
Laura.
out. Is that just a coincidence, or is
Really?
Keith
We'll
like
have
really
to see.
manipulative?
We'll have to watch.
This
and
is
see. I wouldn't
my
be
this is
surprised.
my wariness level of Keith. I don't trust him at all. I don't like him at all. And Chuck said very clearly they needed a villain. They needed a conflict. And like villain is Keith.
coming.
Villain, definitely. I see him as villain, even though, you know, they're painting it like, oh, this is a relationship for Alison. As an audience member,
Well, I'm taking it very personally how on Allison's side you both are. It really feels like that great conversation. You're like, he's the worst, you're the best. So
We
I really
love you.
appreciate
Yeah.
it as a
And we
girlfriend. I
love
really
Allison.
appreciate the conversation.
But you guys, the writers aren't dumb. What you're feeling, Laura, as an audience member, as you say, I am too. We're all feeling it. I think
Yeah.
they've, you know, they have specific lines and they're writing it in there. It's in there.
Yeah.
You know, so we got to see why. More
well,
to be revealed.
oh, Daphne, you sound like you know where it's going. I don't, and so I'm super excited to find out. This is
I've
just
never
what
liked him.
I thought I knew, but I forgot this. So Alison goes to the play, gets mugged. That scene was terrifying. I
Yeah.
completely forgot it. I sort of remembered it after, but like hanging on the fence and crying, like didn't remember that at all.
You know, they grab her purse and take the key, and
And then he takes you by that back of your head and
Yeah.
over to the
Yes.
fence, the
shoves your
cyclone
face into the
fence. It was-
fence. It's terrifying, totally
I'm
traumatizing.
wondering, I know, makes me wonder if Keith set it up because you're absolutely right. He's there for every moment. And it felt like the Lee Ehrenberg character made it extra scary for you to make a
Well,
point.
and
you
I do
know?
remember that. And it's funny because I just saw Lee rewatching Seinfeld for the 1000th time. And he has that fight with Kramer over the parking space. So if people don't remember who he is,
Oh,
he's the
right.
guy who's arguing with Kramer over the parking space. He was amazing in that too. But I do remember how incredibly sweet he was, which is great because it was really scary. But so often, don't you find those guys who play the tough guys are the sweetest guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sweetest.
Reassuring you in between shots.
Yes.
And you have to practice, you have to go over the blocking and stuff.
But I was surprised, like she couldn't get her key. I just assumed watching it that she would get her key in time and go in the car. I was just as shocked as you were, Laura, having seen it for the first time, when she got grabbed, and it really scary.
And it was shot in that way that's really startling and frightening. Like that tone in Melrose Place, we're going to see it in subsequent seasons. Like it's going to come up a lot. I think a lot of, traumatizing, scary stuff happens, especially to the women, as we know. But I think this is but although Billy he had his car, beating attack thingy too. This is a really scary, like the music is scary. It continues through the episode with the laundry room, and she's going down and she's really fearful, and just the tone of everything about the show with the music and
also the camera shots. I mean, don't forget that's Victoria Hopper.
Yeah,
She's
great.
so good at bringing out the emotion. And I think she uses like Steadicam or handheld a lot, so that when you use Steadicam or handheld, it's not like locked off on a tripod. You feel vulnerable because it's moving with you. That's what I felt in that scene. And also down in the laundry room, there's movement to it. So there's this like creeping feeling as well.
And also, it's always scary to go down into a dark laundry room, right? Like to go down into your basement, go down into a dark laundry room. But didn't you think so? Allison goes down into the dark laundry room. The lights are out. She hears a noise. Keith comes down, of course, her savior. She still says, "I'm so scared. I'm so scared." And I literally said, "What about your laundry?" Like the tiny mom, and he's like,
shouldn't we start the
"Can't
load
he come
now
down
that
with you and help you with your laundry?" Like, why can't we do that? But
she
lights
just
on.
abandons the load of laundry.
Well, I'm
I
thinking,
know.
you're traumatized. And why would you go down in that moment? I'm trying to imagine it. Well, maybe if I go down to the laundry room, then I'll feel better if I do my laundry right now.
Well,
That would be like in bed.
Yeah,
pretty,
I would say forget it. I can do laundry tomorrow in the light of
Yeah,
day. But she must
another
have
time.
clearly known there's like another light switch at the bottom of the stairs very conveniently. So I'll just like bravely venture down and hit this other light switch.
Yeah, she's trying to be brave. There's
Yeah.
a line like later on which just got me. It made me laugh. So when Keith says, and I wrote here, Keith is very sweet and thoughtful post mugging. I'm almost rooting for him. Like he's saying all the right things. He actually said, "Don't worry about being strong, being brave. Let me be all those things for you, at least for tonight." Then I kind of wanted to hit him because I was like, that's really taking advantage of Allison's vulnerability.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to pat himself on the back. I will shoulder this all for you.
But he did say the right things, right? Like he said, it was so scary. Don't worry about the car. Like he really did say all the right things. So I understood why. Oh, and how about that scene when, so it's post mugging. It's the next morning and Allison and Keith are holding hands in the doorway and Billy comes in and he has no idea what happened. He's just coming in apologizing for the play. And he says, "How is the play?" And Allison goes, "I don't remember. It all kind of slipped my mind once I got carjacked." And I was like, "Ooh, she's a master of passive aggression." And then she walks out and he goes, "I didn't hear." She goes, "I tried to reach you," and plays the message. And she's sobbing and saying, basically, "I've just been attacked. And
Enjoy the
Are
guilt
you
trip.
there for me?"
She says, "Listen to it for yourself."
Yes.
And she leaves with Keith. And he's listening. Poor Billy's by himself, hearing you, so traumatized.
Yes.
He's like, "What did I do?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Las Culturistas with Matt Rogers and Bowen Yang just won Podcast of the Year at this year's iHeart Podcast Awards.
Oh, wow. You're kidding.
Stop it.
Lady Gaga will take home the Innovator Award at Monday's iHeartRadio Music Awards. Now, these iHeart Award winners are teaming up on a brand new episode of Las Culturistas.
Thank you so much for having me here, but please don't make me get angry about anything in public.
Just open the free iHeartRadio app, search Las Culturistas, and listen now.
I'm Mary Kay McBrayer, host of the podcast The Greatest True Crime Stories Ever Told. Join me every week as I tell some of the most enthralling true crime stories about women who are not just victims, but heroes or villains. or often somewhere in between. Listen to the greatest true crime stories ever told on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is often laced into illicit drugs and used to make fake versions of prescription pills. You can't see it, taste it, or smell it. Suppliers mix fentanyl into their products because it's potent and cheap, and the dealer might not even know. Keep yourself and others safe by knowing the real deal on fentanyl. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
Love at first swipe? I highly doubt it.
What's your biggest red flag?
No. What's your ultimate green flag?
These days, reality TV and social media have us thinking love is instant. We're marrying strangers at first sight, we're finding love through walls, or we're even judging people by balloon pops.
But what really makes a relationship last? On this episode of Dope Labs, poet, author, and relationship expert Young Pueblo breaks down the psychology and biology of loving better. And he provides eye-opening insights and advice that we all need.
It's a big realization moment that you should not be postponing your happiness. Like, your greatest happiness is not necessarily going to come from a relationship. Your partner, they should add to your happiness, but your happiness is really coming from within you.
Listen to Dope Labs on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Why would you do that to me when I thought we were friends?
We are friends.
Los Angeles, 2021. A friendly neighbor appears out of nowhere and promises to make all my dreams come true.
Let's not forget that David Bloom was a professional con artist, so you didn't stand a chance.
But my dreams soon turned into a nightmare.
Bloom generally targeted people with money.
And I was not alone.
He took over 100 people for over $15 million. One of the victims was his own grandmother.
I was married to David for almost 10 years. It was insane. I was barely functioning, and I just had this realization that he will not stop until he kills me.
Getting a con artist to pay for their crimes isn't easy.
Charge David Bloom!
I'm Caroline DeMore. Listen as I take down my scammer on Once Upon a Con on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And then, alongside this, Billy's navigating his thing with Amanda, who's really catching on that he's preoccupied with his feelings about Alison and stuff. And she's going, you don't seem like somebody who just thinks of her as a friend. You seem to be thinking of her an awful lot, this guilt over not being there for her.
And how about that shot when they're in the sculpture garden, that's kind of cool for Melrose Place.
UCLA.
Yeah. Is that UCLA?
UCLA.
And they come in and it's this naked torso of this woman in bronze. And we're driving in and she's talking, we're driving in, the shot is coming in and you see them coming up in the background. And did you notice in this scene, she says, someone who loves you?
Yeah.
Do we know that they love each other? Have they said the L word yet? That came out of nowhere.
Dropped. And even Billy didn't say anything about it. And we're going, excuse me, is that a thing we missed?
Fast. Moving fast.
Yeah.
I know.
That was the L word.
And even before that, when he meets the dad, what about that scene? That was hilarious. Amanda's father is teaching Billy the things about whiskey. Scotch, whiskey, Scotch. And he's like, well, I drink beer and I'm a cab driver. And I'm like, wrong thing to say, Billy.
He wasn't trying very hard to make a good impression.
I don't think he knew how, to be honest.
Yeah.
It seemed like he was like, well, I drive a cab. Well, I like beer.
I thought he was being so sweet. Like he wasn't putting on airs.
I just think it was, he didn't care to impress him. He was not going to try.
Well, that would be dumb.
I think so too.
That would be dumb.
I think so too.
You like Amanda. You've decided you're it's just dumb. Do something.
Isn't he smarter than I don't know. Just he was a little bit almost defiantly sort of challenging Amanda's dad and going, well, no, I don't like scotch. I'm a beer drinker. That is kind of dumb if you're gonna try to make a good impression. So I conclude, well, then he just wasn't trying because.
So I'm going to bring this back to me again. I just realized yesterday, after saying hi to the baby, David and I went to Buena Vista, which is a famous Irish pub here in San Francisco next to Ghirardelli Square. It's where Herb Caen went, all these writers, and I had an Irish coffee, Irish whiskey, and David had a Guinness. So beer drinker, Irish. Then I looked at the clock. It was like 11 a.m. We're on vacation.
You'd probably been up for hours.
We've been up for hours watching over the baby. It's so exhausting.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
He goes so meanly. Her dad goes to her as an aside in the kitchen and says, like, we'll see how long this lasts.
Yeah, he's not for you.
So mean.
Wayne Tippett is the actor who plays Amanda's dad. He's so great. And
yeah, he's great. He's another
familiar.
person who's in everything.
Yeah, he
was perfect.
But it does feel early. Like, I know we snuck in that Amanda loves Billy, but it does feel early for him to meet her dad, right? Like, so it's all happening very, very fast. That relationship is taking off. Billy and Alison and Keith are moving quickly because of her trauma.
Yeah.
And by the end of the
And it
episode,
really
she's going to suggest he moves in. Yeah, it's moving fast. You
drop the L word.
Mid-episode,
yes.
They both did.
We don't,
They
we don't
both
talk
did.
about the L word, but we're also
weird.
moving in together super fast.
Well, I feel like, I don't know. And doesn't it feel like driven by Amanda? This close. Doesn't it feel like she's like, I want him? And doesn't it feel like it's so pushed and initiated by Billy?
Yeah.
It feels like,
yes.
Okay, well, she's gorgeous. Yes, I dig this. And my roommate / woman that I really love is, back in Keith's life. So,
but
I
also
agree.
she's
She
so
is sort of-
seductive. Like you said, Daphne, it started off with her making him breakfast in bed. She's so gorgeous, obviously. And she's more mature than, doesn't look it. Like, remember, Heather said she felt old coming on the show. She doesn't look any older than anybody
no way.
else. But she definitely is more sophisticated. He acts like a boy next to her. So I think he just sort of is letting her lead the way. Who wouldn't? Like, honestly, who could say no to her?
We'd all
She's
be like,
walking around
okay.
so beautiful. I'll do this.
Yeah.
Sure. He's not stupid.
But you're right. She is,
in spite of how he was with her
she
dad.
is driving that and saying, all right, we're in this. I love you and you should move in. And that
How
wasn't
much
him
of it
saying.
do you think is the competition for her? Like, how much of it is stealing Billy from Alison? Or am I sort of looking into the future?
I think
Because
you're
there's not
looking
like
in.
You're projecting.
Yeah.
I think
we'll have to
you,
wait and
Courtney,
projecting.
Allison are projecting. I think your lines are really blurred for some
Courtney
reason.
Allison doesn't like Andrew, Billy, Amanda, Heather. Courtney Allison.
Courtney's really offended by this whole thing for Allison.
I do think there's touches of that, those Melrose moments where she's like, well, kind of gives him ultimatums and nuzzles his neck and like, I'll take you away from her. But I don't think it's fully that. I think she really digs him from the very first episode way back in 21, 20.
Well, they had more of this, like this scene, and you pointed out, Daphne, I'm so mad at you for it, when they're ice skating and it's so sweet and you're kind of rooting for them, still mad at you for it. But in this one, they're walking down, I think you're getting a hot dog and
a dirty dog.
A dirty dog.
Heather's dirty dog.
Heather's in her like really fitted, sexy plaid. So here's a dichotomy, a clothing dichotomy. She's got this sexy red plaid suit with a half jacket and a tight skirt. And I've got this huge plaid jacket. I remember that jacket though. And I remember thinking it was so cool because it had huge shoulder pads that sort of hung halfway down my arm.
Yeah, but it was like an LL Bean or whatever you like.
You know what I think it was now that we're talking about it? And I literally had a vague memory of this. It was because I was so scared. Yeah, I think I kept that jacket.
You still wearing it? Come on now.
Las Culturistas with Matt Rogers and Bowen Yang just won Podcast of the Year at this year's iHeart Podcast Awards.
Oh, wow. You're kidding.
Stop it.
Lady Gaga will take home the Innovator Award at Monday's iHeartRadio Music Awards. Now, these iHeart Award winners are teaming up on a brand new episode of Las Culturistas.
Thank you so much for having me here, but please don't make me get angry about anything in public.
Just open the free iHeartRadio app, search Las Culturistas, and listen now.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is often laced into illicit drugs and used to make fake versions of prescription pills. You can't see it, taste it, or smell it. Suppliers mix fentanyl into their products because it's potent and cheap, and the dealer might not even know. Keep yourself and others safe by knowing the real deal on fentanyl. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
I'm Mary Kay McBrayer, host of the podcast The Greatest True Crime Stories Ever Told. Join me every week as I tell some of the most enthralling true crime stories about women who are not just victims, but heroes or villains, or often somewhere in between. Listen to The Greatest True Crime Stories Ever Told on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Love at first swipe? I highly doubt it.
What's your biggest red flag?
No. What's your ultimate green flag?
These days, reality TV and social media have us thinking love is instant. We're marrying strangers at first sight, we're finding love through walls, or we're even judging people by balloon pops.
But what really makes a relationship last? On this episode of Dope Labs, poet, author, and relationship expert Young Pueblo breaks down the psychology and biology of loving better. And he provides eye-opening insights and advice that we all need.
It's a big realization moment that you should not be postponing your happiness. Like, your greatest happiness is not necessarily going to come from a relationship. Your partner, they should add to your happiness, but your happiness is really coming from within you.
Listen to Dope Labs on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Ever wonder what it would be like to be mentored by today's top business leaders? My podcast, This Is Working, can help with that. Here's advice from Google CMO Lorraine Toohill on how to treat AI like a partner.
I see AI as an incredible co-pilot. You may use different tools or toys to get the work done, but ultimately as editor, as creator, as maker, you own it. And it needs to be good. AI is just the latest flavor of that. You're still the judge of what good looks like.
I'm Dan Roth, LinkedIn's editor-in-chief. On my podcast, This Is Working, leaders like Indra Nooyi, Ray Dalio, and Rich Paul share strategies for success and the real lessons that have shaped them. Listen on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
There was a scene, Dap. Did you notice there was a scene between you and me when I'm folding sheets?
I thought the same thing. Like, did she just come over and you happen to be folding laundry at the time? So hey, help me fold this laundry and let's chat.
But doesn't it look like I'm folding up like a bed that had been on the couch? Yeah, it was very confusing to me.
It was like you were folding, or you were just folding the laundry in the living room.
And I just remember things, we've said this before early on in our podcast, well, what can she be doing? Or you're saying, we walk on set, with your tea or your water going, well, what am I doing? Yeah. Expecting somebody there. So they're like, well, and then they're like, well, we got to do it over here. Well, she's folding laundry. And I don't even know if they tied it into the laundry scene earlier that episode. No, right?
Yeah, just maybe. Or maybe that's what it was and we didn't get it.
We didn't get it, but I'm really glowing and talking about because I had spent the night with Keith, who now, and it's so funny because watching it, I didn't at all get what you guys were talking about him taking advantage of her in her moment of need. Now I'm furious. I'm suddenly furious.
You're so
now that I understand what happened, I'm so angry that he took advantage of her because he did. It was right after the I'll be brave for you that they fell into bed. And then she was all perky and saying, it was amazing, actually. It was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I'll take care of that. I'm taking you to the shooting range.
I'm
going to go shoot my Sig Sauer.
I also thought it was sort of funny. Joe was being like, oh, I know how that feels. That's happened to me. All
the time.
Oh yeah. It happened to me in New York. You just,
have an evil accent in New York. She did say that. You're right. I've been mugged.
Yeah.
I got this.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
I have an idea. Come on. I know you're scared to go out of the house right now and you're not going to work, but come on, let's go. Let's leave the house.
Yeah.
And didn't you think it was interesting that Jake was so anti-gun? So Jake finds out that Joe has a gun at home and he does this. He just rails on it, talking about his friends who had guns and they ended up shooting each other. I thought that was a nice anti-gun message in the middle of Melrose Place.
Yeah, it was a very very clear conversation between the two characters. That whole scene with Jake and Joe is so sweet because their storyline refers to the previous episode where Joe had he had said to her, you were a silent partner, right? And so all throughout this one, when they're having this thread continue where he's saying, this is my business. You're the silent partner. Stop telling me what to do. And by the end, she gives the, hey, I'm done with the gun. And he gives, hey, I'm giving you the books. And like, they like both share this.
You do the money part.
Yeah. For each other. And it's such a sweet scene with the gift that that Joe brings for Jake.
The lines are blurry.
Very
Don't
blurry.
worry.
The gift that Joe.
We're so confused. It's just because we're middle-aged brain now.
It's just.
But Daff, who was the transpo guy we saw out the window? He used to go on those magical motorcycle rides with all of you guys.
Yeah.
Magical.
Oh, he was the best.
Yeah,
he was there a few times in the scene. Yeah, I liked how in the beginning when Joe brings up, I know this is your business and I'm the silent, you just want my money and I'm your investor. So she's trying to figure out, but she has ideas and stuff. And he's so testy. What do you mean? You don't think I can do the money myself? Well, let's just say it. You don't think I can run this business by myself? And then by the end, they both give in. She's very testy when she's defending having a gun. And he's like, you got to get rid of that. My friend died in my arms with the gun that he had. So anyway, it was I like how the end, they both compromised. The only way you can move to the middle, and they did with that wonderfully Melrose Place moment of the neon sign that she brings to him that says Jake's Place. And they do that silhouetted kiss in front of it. And it says Jake's Place. And it's just this beautiful, okay, for now they're coming together. It's a good couple.
Yeah, you finally kissed. You guys did a lot less making out in this story.
Yeah.
So we haven't talked yet about Terrence and Rhonda, which is great for comic relief.
That whole storyline, when I saw Ray Don Chong's name in the credits, I was like, oh, and I totally understood when Rhonda's character says, wait, you haven't told me what your decorator's name was that you want me to meet with. And then you're like, I can tell you what her name is.
And it was such a good balance, right, to these sort of heavy storylines, especially the poor Alison storyline. So they're so light and funny, and Ray Don Chong is so hilarious. And Vanessa does such a great job playing along with it. Meanwhile, we've got the storyline with Keith and Alison and Billy where Alison finally asks Keith to move in, and then Billy decides to move in with Amanda.
Nuts.
Hello.
Yeah.
And then we have that sad scene at the end.
That lasted forever, and it was so sad.
Just on Alison being sad. And then she goes,
it was
wait
so
a minute,
sad.
Billy. And then she goes, do you want your coffee maker? And we're like, no.
It wasn't just sad because of the writing. It was sad because of the shots, because she kept turning around and doing close-ups on you. And Courtney, you were so real and so just there. And I just saw she's using, that's really my boyfriend, and I'm never going to see him again. I knew you were just like, and tears were coming in. I'm like, and then they cut to him, and little Andrew/Billy was just like, oh, I don't need the coffee maker. Amanda has a big German one, gives you everything. She's like, oh, I mean,
and then he says right before this last scene, she's like, wait, where are you going? And he goes, it's not as if we thought we were going to spend the rest of our lives together. And I was like, but we did. I was like, I was so.
And then he also does, I think, didn't he say, Courtney, we probably did the best we could have. And I'm like, no, you haven't even come close to the best you can, you moron.
You haven't even kissed. You're more busy kissing these other people that we want you to stop kissing right now.
You guys were both so good in that scene, and it traveled from the bedroom out into the living room as he goes, and he ends up going out the door. But like every back and forth shot and the music cues underneath, it was just this gentle piano. It was like very unique and very like tear lump in your throat watching scene.
I mean, and that hug.
Yep.
He goes to the door. You guys
hug.
haven't even hugged.
Yeah.
And then they cut to you, and you're going, bye. And he's like,
he decides.
Back and he hugs, and you're like,
I know, he gives me a kiss on the cheek, and like it's almost a kiss. I thought at first when he leaned in, I thought he was gonna kiss me, and then this is where the lines are blurring again. And then he didn't. It was a kiss on the cheek and a hug, and it's like, oh.
And all we, the audience, are going, oh, she's left there with what's his name?
Exactly. With
it was.
I want you to move to Seattle.
The very end, he's like, come on, at least look at the, check out the things, the pamphlets, and please just consider it.
That's
and
right.
I hadn't even thought about it till right now, but all through it, she's saying, I don't know if I'm brave enough to live and work in LA anymore. So that's also working with him saying you want to go to Seattle. So there's a very good chance
And she's got her
She's gonna
roommate
move.
walking out the door. She no longer has a roommate. So
Yeah,
I
you
don't
paid
think
through the
Radon
end of the
Chana
month.
is a good option to come in and be her roommate.
This should have been the cliffhanger. And you know what? Episode 24 was probably supposed to be the last episode. But then they kept adding more episodes, so we still have 10 more
Courtney's
to
obsessed
go.
with how bad the ratings were, and she thinks every episode we were going to get kicked off air. So this was probably it.
Well, but
And then-
24 would have been, we did 22 then. So 24 would have been a lot. So my guess is this was where they were, this was probably going to be the cliffhanger, but then they kept adding because the ratings were getting higher and higher.
Maybe.
Well, a lot happened in this one for sure. We've got Billy
was a
who's
great
moved out
episode.
into Amanda's apartment. Allison's on the verge of considering if she's going to leave for Seattle. We didn't see Michael and Jane at all in this episode.
Oh,
No.
wasn't
We
that
saw-
weird?
Scene with Matt.
We saw Matt for a beat as he's giving
Yeah, that's
advice
it.
to Rhonda and their. And
He was
listening
also
to
cleaning
her
the pool.
And Matt was cleaning the pool.
That was Matt.
Wasn't that Matt?
I don't think that was Matt. I think that was
No, I don't
unnamed
know.
pool cleaner
Oh.
guy.
I
with
think
the
they would have
sweater.
pulled around and seen him
Yeah.
by the front.
They
I
would
just saw him
have
from the
like
back.
he was being paid for the episode, so they might as well have used his face. But
Yeah, clean the
So
pool while you're at it.
He was
You're being
actually
paid.
cleaning the pool.
he was
Getting
right.
TV money,
Right.
clean the pool.
He was just there at work
We
for
have
the
a
day.
scene in a pool duty for you, Doug.
You know, I'm not doing anything else right now. Can I clean the
Yeah.
pool for you? I can fold your fitted sheets.
I'm here all day in my trailer. I might as well. Put
No,
my-
I know we have to end, but one quick question, Laura. Did you and Doug ever have a scene together where you're just ever on the show where you're just talking to each other?
Yes, we have some
You
scenes later.
Okay. Oh, good. I'm excited.
I don't know, episodes.
Because I couldn't imagine how
seasons.
Sydney and Doug would have a conversation.
And there's some scenes with Sydney and Matt.
Group scenes. We're all in group
Well,
scenes together. But
something happened somewhere along the line.
Totally.
All right, I gotta go see the baby.
All right. Have fun,
Hour and a
guys.
half.
Thanks for tuning in to
All
another
right,
episode
guys.
of Still the Place.
See you
We'll see you on a
soon.
Melrose Minute and see you soon on the next episode.
Bye, guys. Bye, everyone.
Las Culturistas with Matt Rogers and Bowen Yang just won Podcast of the Year at this year's iHeart Podcast Awards.
Oh, wow. You're kidding. Stop it.
Lady Gaga will take home the Innovator Award at Monday's iHeart Radio Music Awards. Now, these iHeart Award winners are teaming up on a brand new episode of Las Culturistas.
Thank you so much for having me here, but please, please, please don't make me get angry about anything in public.
Just open the free iHeart Radio app, search Las Culturistas, and listen now.
Love at first swipe? I highly doubt it. Reality TV and social media have love all wrong. So what really makes relationships last? On this episode of Dope Labs, poet and relationship expert Young Pueblo breaks down the psychology of love and provides eye-opening insights and advice we all need.
It's a big realization moment that you should not be postponing your happiness. Like, your greatest happiness is not necessarily going to come from a relationship. Your partner, they should add to your happiness, but your happiness is really coming from within you.
Listen to Dope Labs on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, it's Alec Baldwin. This past season on my podcast, Here's the Thing, I spoke with more actors, musicians, policymakers, and so many other fascinating people, like writer and actor Dan Aykroyd.
I love writing more than anything. You're left alone. You do 3 hours in the morning, you write 3 hours in the afternoon, go pick up a kid from school, and write at night. And after 9 hours, you come out with 7 pages, and then you're moving on.
And actor and comedian Jack McBrayer.
The most important aspect is the collaboration with people that I like, I trust, are talented. That has been the most amazing gift to me about this crazy business that we've chosen. Meeting these people who have such diverse talents, and you're able to create something together.
Listen to Here's the Thing on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Are you hungry? Colleen Witt here, and Eating While Broke is back for season 4 every Thursday on the Black Effect Podcast Network. This season, we've got a legendary lineup serving up broke dishes and even better stories. On the menu, we have Tony Baker, Nick Cannon, Melissa Ford, October London, and Carrie Harper Howie turning Big Macs into big moves. Catch Eating While Broke every Thursday on the Black Effect Podcast Network, iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your favorite shows. Come hungry for season 4.
Hi, I'm Bob Pittman, Chairman and CEO of iHeartMedia. I'm excited to introduce a brand new season of my podcast, Math and Magic: Stories from the Frontiers of Marketing. I'm having conversations with some folks across a wide range of industries to hear how they reach the top of their fields and the lessons they learned along the way that everyone can use. I'll be joined by innovative leaders like Chairman and CEO of Elf Beauty, Tarang Amin, legendary singer-songwriter and philanthropist Jewel.
Being a rock star is very fun, but helping people is way more fun.
And Damian Maldonado, CEO of American Financing.
I figured out the formula. I just have to work hard, then that's magic.
Join me as we uncover innovations in data and analytics, the math, and the ever-important creative spark, the magic. Listen to Math and Magic on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast.